Okay, welcome to the Lightburn setup video for JTech Photonics lasers and GRBL machines. We're going to go through the whole process of setting it up from download all the way through running your first program here. So let's go first and download the software. You can find it at the JTech Photonics website under Lightburn software. There's going to be these four versions, the Windows 64-bit, Windows 32-bit, the Mac version, and a Linux version. Just click on this and it will download to your computer. And once it downloads, we're just going to open that up and run it. After it goes through the download, it's going to pop up and once you install it, it will have a desktop item. Let's go through and open up our desktop item. It's going to have an activation code section, but we don't have the, we already put in our activation code, so just put in your code in there. If you didn't have a code, then there's a 30-day free trial, so that's good. So when you first start, it's going to pop up this device recovery or discovery wizard. It's going to attempt to find your laser. I will say in most GRBL machines, this will not work. It's mostly designed for the CO2 machines. I think that's where it works the best. If you notice, it's going to go through, it's going to look for it, and you're not going to find anything. So it's not going to find a device. What we recommend is to cancel this and create a device manually. This button right here, just create it manually. And for most of these devices, we'll just go through and figure out exactly what you need to put here. All right, and before we go through this, I just want to show you all these instructions are also available on the website. If you go to the blog down here on using Lightburn and Shapeoko 3 and XCarve machines, it goes through all of this in step-by-step detail on how to do all these instructions for the XCarve machines and the Shapeoko machines. And if you wanted to find it for the JTech Acro machines, it's all here step-by-step on this page here. But this is a video, so we're going to go through the video. So, all right, so let's start. So for standard GRBL machines, if you have GRBL 1.1F or higher, which I recommend, if you don't have it on the machine, we'll show you how to put that on the machine. But this is going to be for the way to go, because this is going to be the way that you can do pictures and dynamic laser mode, all the good firmwares. All the stuff in the firmware that we put in for the laser is going to be in that GRBL one. So click next. You're going to be serial USB. Just name this whatever you want. Like if you have an XCarve, you can name it GRBL XCarve. The length of your machine, you're going to look that up a little bit, but for the 1000 by 1000 machines for the Shapeoko 3 and the XCarve, it's going to be about 31 by 31. You can mess with this a little bit later. This is just going to set the size of the grid space here. You can figure that out and fine tune it. We're going to do front left on all these machines. The Shapeoko 3 I know homes to the back side, but you're going to still use front left on it because that's what the laser is expecting is front left. And we're going to not click auto home. You don't want to have your laser home on startup. That just messes with things and a lot of error codes. You can always home later, but just don't do it on startup. So we're going to finish this. This one in this particular is just an XCarve. You can put whatever you want in there. If you have an Acro machine, that's good. If you have a Shapeoko 3 or a Millwright or anything else, just put it in there and finish. So we have it. We already had an Acro here, and now we have this XCarve. If you click on this one, you can see you can make it your default if you have multiple machines. But so let's go and click on this one, and you're going to see that you can go down here, and the grid's a little bit bigger on our XCarve version here, and we can connect to it by selecting COM4. There's in this one we're going to go through, and I'm going to show you on our smaller Acro machine. We've set up for this video. We've set this one up, which is a little bit smaller. It's the JTech Acro machine. So we're going to select that one here, and we're going to go COM4, and you can see it says ready here. That means that you've connected to it. So it normally says waiting for connection, port opened, and then it shows you your GRBL version. We're going to check and see what GRBL version you have. In this case, it's 1.1F. We're going to not upgrade this one right now because this one's 1.1F. But if you do need to upgrade it, we're going to show you another video on exactly how to upgrade it. Those the step-by-step instructions here go through on how to upgrade if you if you don't have the firmware. So you can see right here, it says if you need to download the firmware and then download the X loader. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things here that we need to look for. Now that we're connected to the machine, so it says port open and we're connected, let's go and check and see what we want for our units. So go up here, and it's probably going to be over here on millimeters per second or one of these other ones when you first start out. This is what you need to do. Over here on better for diode, you can either do the millimeters per minute or inches per minute. So if you're a metric person, choose millimeters per minute. If you're inches guy or gal, just choose inches per minute. So I like inches. That's what we normally talk in here in America. So I think we're just going to choose inches, and we're going to say okay. Everything else on this page is pretty okay. And then go over here to the device settings, and let's make sure our origin is still in the front left. And we're going to see our S value max is 1000, and we're going to enable our laser fire button. This will have the fire button on the move page, and that will be good for us. So we're going to do that. And once you enable your laser fire button, we need to restart Lightburn. So we're just going to shut down Lightburn, and then we're going to restart it again. All right, now that we restarted, you can see it automatically connected. If you are having difficulty connecting to your machine, look down here and see if it has a COM port. If you have not turned on your machine before you start Lightburn, you will not see a COM port down here, and it will not connect. Make sure you connect to your machine, start Lightburn after your machine's turned on. If you don't have your machine turned on, then just restart Lightburn, and COM port should pop up here. If you still don't see a COM port, that means you have either easel or carbide motion open and something else is connected to your machine already. In that case, just shut down carbide motion or easel or any other program that you have running and only open Lightburn, and you should be able to see your machines. All right, now we're going to finish up the console and check some of our firmware settings. In order to do that in the console here, the type command here, you can do a money sign, a dollar sign, whatever. You can press that, enter, and you're going to see a bunch of settings here. These are firmware settings for your machine. You can see them here. The other place you can see them, I believe, is in the machine settings here. This will also have it here. You can look through your homing cycle and stuff like that. I usually just kind of like to do it in the old-fashioned way here in the console. There's a few of these that we need to check out. If you're ever curious about what these really mean, you can go through and just Google GRBL configuration, and this goes through. You can see the GitHub website for where we have GRBL stored, and it's going to have the GRBL settings here, and you can look, and each one of these has a particular thing that's associated with it. The ones that we're going to be really looking at right now is the max spindle speed RPM, which is $30, and $32, which is the laser mode. You can click on any of these and we'll kind of discuss what it means. Laser mode is basically the firmware that is in there for doing pictures that we helped write with Sunny. All right, so let's go back here. So we're going to just change these, and the big one is going to be $30. You notice that it's probably equal to 1. There's a couple ways to do it. We can just in here type $30 equals 1,000. That's what we need to do. I didn't do it right. $30 equals 1,000, and press OK. And $32 equals 1. Those are the two things we need. And now if you type money sign again, you can see it, and you can see that those just changed. $30 is 1,000, and $32 is 1. So this $30 value here, the big part about that you need to know is it just needs to match whatever S value max number is here. So we have 1,000 here, so that's why we chose to have 1,000 here. Some places we used to say to put 255 there, but it really doesn't matter as long as these numbers are exactly the same. Then that's gonna matter there. The other thing to check is up here the $10. For Lightburn, that needs to be 0, so $10 equals 0. I'll type that in. And the $13 needs to be 0 too, so if you have something different for $13, then that needs to be 0 for it to work. So we're going to go down here and look and see if those changed. And so I did $sign again, and there's $10 0, $13 0, then $30 is 1,000, and $32 is 1. There's something I normally do for a lot of people when we remote in is I usually make a button that says use laser. This use laser button, I'm just going to put in here $30 equals 1000 and $32 equals 1. And this will, just in case carbide motion or if easel changes those back again, then you can press this button, boom, and those will get changed back. If you have a spindle that's automatic, you can also set those back to what easel likes or what carbide motion likes. So you can say use CNC, and this is only if you have a IoT relay to turn on your spindle automatically. But easel and carbide motion really like to have $30 equal 1 and $32 equal to 0. And that will put it back to what is default for easel and for carbide motion. But you don't need to do that if you don't have an automatic spindle. So, so let's move on to the next thing. All right, so let's go over to the Move tab, and let's just see if we can move our machine. This distance here is going to say how much of an increment these little buttons are going to do to move your machine. So right now it's at a ½ an inch. For X and Y, this is going to be good. You can put it whatever you want. You can put an inch or whatever you want to do. So if you move the machine, if I move this way, I can see the machine moves that way. So Y goes this other way, X back and X forward. If these are wrong, there is a GRBL firmware setting that you can change. But on the Acro machine, some of the easier ways to do it is just to change the orientation of the cables on the GRBL board. You can just swap them and reverse them. If you want, there's also $, I think $3 in the firmware settings is the one that you're going to be for your direction. But on most of these, if you already have it running on, like for easel and Shapeokos and for X-Cars and Shapeokos, if you already have it working, your machine working already, then that is going to be what it's just going to just work. So just check that and see if it works. If you're going to then move your Z-axis, sometimes a ½ an inch is going to be a little bit too much. Like you can get it into place and then maybe go like 0.01 or something like that and move your Z-axis. In this case, we have a little bit of room, so we can still do that. So we're going to go 0.5 and get it down to almost an ½ of an inch. Then when you get down to the bottom there, you can get it even more and get it closer. We have this little focus set tool that we can just put on. That's an ½ of an inch, so we can just go down until it just about hits. You can see it just about hit, and that already hit, so I'm going to go off of it a little bit and make sure that you can still kind of get it underneath, but you want it to be a little bit more. Oh, that's on it. You can tell when it's on it that it doesn't come off, so that's on it. So there you go. So that's perfect. Okay. So now we're set to an ½ of an inch above the work surface, and that's how you basically use your little your distance thing. This is the distance for X, Y, and Z. This is the Z down. This is Z up. So that's that. All right. So the next thing we have to look for is the fire button. The fire button's right here. This will fire it in low power mode so that you can see where the position of the laser is. Typically, it's somewhere between 4 and 6%. So I'm going to try 4% here and see if ours turns on. And yep, it turns on. You can see there's a little bit of a light there. If it doesn't turn on, you can go and do higher power. Ours is getting brighter and brighter as you do higher power. You can see it starts to burn. It starts to burn at around 5 or so on some words, so you have to watch out for that. But you can see that it turns on and off. And this is really just to make sure that you can see where the laser is when trying to set up your workpiece. If you go all the way up past 6% here, then that means you have a settings issue. You didn't set this $30 equal to the S value max. Because then the percentages are going to be off. Or if it doesn't turn on when you press fire and after even over 6%, then you have maybe a problem with your cable from the laser driver to your controller, your X-Carb or your carbide motion board. So if in that case, give us contact us and we'll help you through it. All right, so let's now just try putting some text onto our grid here. Let's just type out hello, and you can see that we have this hello here now. If you highlight it, you can go up here and you can see the width and the height. You can keep the aspect ratio on by locking this. So if we wanted to make it a little bit smaller, let's make it like maybe 1.5 inches. That's how you resize things. So you can just say 1.5 inches and click somewhere else and it just shrunk down in size. Go to the Cuts tab, Cuts Layers tab, and you're going to notice that this is the layer here, the black one that we have. You can change layers and change different colors. That's highlighted again so you can. You can change different colors if you want, and each layer represents different settings, so you can have a bunch of things on your workpiece with different parameters, so you can make your objects look nice. If you have like a logo or something that has a bunch of different stuff on it, that's the different layers that you'd use. So first let's look at line. If you double click on this, it's going to default to really high speed. In this case, it says 239 inches per minute. That's going to be really fast. For most of our lasers, it's going to be somewhere between around 50 to 120 inches per minute. The 7 watt has a sweet spot somewhere around 80 inches per minute at 80% power. So let's go in here and change that. So this is going to be way too fast. The faster you go, the lighter it's going to be. The slower you go, the darker it's going to be. So at some point, it's going to go so fast that the laser's not even going to have enough time to burn anything. If you see it be, if your engravings are kind of splotchy and just like you can't even see anything burned, then that means you're going way too fast. So let's try 80 and 80 here on this outline. All this other stuff you don't really have to matter about. It's if you want to do a cutout, this number of passes is kind of important because it just keeps on going over and over again. But let's press OK. And we can see the preview buttons, this little TV thing. We can see that it's just going to do an outline of a hello. And it's going to take something like around 8 seconds. This estimated time is not necessarily correct. We'll get into that in a little bit later. Let's then try and do, instead of align mode, let's do actually like fill in line. So let's look at those parameters and let's go over here. So we have 80 and 80. The big thing on this is the distance between these lines, and that's going to be your line interval. Line interval really is somewhere around 0.006 for a lot of woods. If you notice you see any white spaces between each of these lines, that number is a little bit too big. If you notice that it's getting really dark and it's overlapping, that means that number is too small. Somewhere around 0.006 to 0.007 is a really good number. If you make this too small, it's going to take forever to do a project. So you try to maximize this number to be as big as you can and still get the quality you like. There's some cool things you can do with this too. You can also do little different angles and things if you want to do a 45. The other thing to note here you can do is a crosshatch. That really is good for some projects where you want to have a really good detail, because this will get rid of any of these little artifacts for that the lines going back and forth will cause, because then you have the other way. We'll just make a nice, more even approach to it. If you do a crosshatch, notice that you're going to be passing on it twice, so you can increase the speed to something else, like maybe let's say 120 or 130, and so that, because you're going to be going over it twice. In this example, I'm just going to do a single pass, and it's going to be horizontal. The other thing to notice here afterwards is the line after. I like doing a line after because it makes the line go around it, and it really gets rid of the edge jaggies on it that you might have. I'm just going to make this the same speed and same power as our original fill, 80 and 80. You can make this a little bit darker if you want, or lighter. It doesn't matter, but just have a line. I usually just leave it default, like as the same as the fill up there. The only other thing to note here is flood fill is this. If you turn on this for really large engravings that are going to take like 4 hours or something, sometimes flood fill can really reduce your time, and that means it's going to not do just a straight raster back and forth, but it will actually optimize your toolpath. So that's just good for later if you have a really big design. Try turning this on and seeing if it saves you some time. Well, for this one, it's just a basic hello, so I'm going to go and just do the standard. So let's go and let's look at this preview now, and now you see that we have outlined it. I don't know why this overscan's on. Actually, I'm going to turn that on too. You don't need to have overscanning. If you have GRBL 1.1F or higher, you do not need overscanning. That's just going to waste time. So let's go and see. I got that overscanning turned off. So you can look at this and see it's just going to go back and forth and do all the hello first, and then afterwards it's going to do an outline. You see, do the outline right there, and it says it's going to take us about 1:44. If we had done the flood fill on this one, I don't think it's going to save us any time, but you can just look and see See, it's not going to raster at base. It's not going to go back and forth. It's going to do the O a little bit first. And it's just going to split it up into what it thinks is going to be the fastest amount of time. In this case, it looks like it saved us like maybe 30 seconds or so, or 40 seconds. And in larger designs, it's going to save you a lot more time. In these small stuff, I kind of like it just to be back and forth because it makes it turn out just a little bit better on the smaller stuff. So the next thing we're going to have to do is position this on the wood. All right, so let's get this positioned on our board. If you want to check, there's this little get position button up here. You can press that. It says 000 because this is exactly where we started Lightburn. And so wherever Lightburn starts, it's going to put it 000. So if you want your bottom left corner to be 000, then you can simply home your machine down there and then restart Lightburn, or you can just move it down to the 000 position. There's a few options to start. So you can say start from, look down here on the right, and you can say absolute coordinates. Absolute coordinates will put this little green dot down by the left here. That's, I don't really recommend it because if for most things you want to position it on the wood and not position the wood base of the machine. Everything else we normally do on easel and car by motion is current position, which means that you can set your job origin, like a lot of times it's bottom left. So you see how it's on the bottom left right here? That little green dot says where the laser is going to start. You can set it center, top right, wherever you want to do. I tend to do center a lot because I like to find the center of my piece of wood. We've already marked with a little piece of pencil on this little piece of scrap wood that we have, this little MDF. And so I'm going to move my laser into position into that center. I'm just going to move it a little bit to the right to line up. I think it's going to line up. And I can press this fire button. It's going to line it up. So I'm need to move it teeny bit more to the, actually a little bit more, about half that space. So like, let's see, and firing it. And yeah, that's like perfectly on that little spot in the center. So I've lined mine up and I put it in the center of that board. We're going to do another video on orientation and all the other user origin and absolute coordinate positions on another video, so check for that. But for right now, let's just use current position because it's super easy to use. And then, so we're going to go and use current position. And one of the things we can do now is the frame button. So frame will actually outline your drawing and engraving onto the wood, and you can press the shift key and it will do it in low power. So we're going to try doing this. We're going to hold down the shift key and press frame, and you're going to notice in low power it's going to frame out where that hello is going to be. That really helps you to figure out exactly where on your wood you are before you start your engrave, so you can get everything lined up perfectly. So before I press start, I'm going to talk a little bit about fume extraction. If you can, and you live in a place that, or you're in a shop or something that has a lot of ventilation, then that's fine. We recommend venting to the outside through ducting or something like that to get all of your smoke and such outside. If you can't, then you can use a new shop vac. Don't use one that has dust in it, and get a charcoal filter pad from Amazon or Home Depot. There's a small Home Depot shop vac, the Stinger, I think for 34 bucks, and you can get a charcoal pad for another 8. And then you can have a little indoor smoke scrubber. We're going to do that with ours, so you can hear a vacuum for a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and press start here because we've already framed it, and let's see what happens. Now it's going to say cut might be out of bounds, and that's because it's going to go into the negative coordinate space up here because we didn't set our 0, position to that bottom left corner, so it thinks that maybe it's out of bounds a little bit. It's just making sure that you actually check to see whether or not you framed it and it's not going to hit anything. Since we did that, I'm going to press continue anyway. And here we go. So it's engraving as we speak, and I'm going to turn on our dust filter, or our smoke sucker. Alright, so let's see how that looks. Looks pretty good. So there's how to set up Lightburn for JTech lasers on GRBL machines. For more information, please see jtechphotonics.com and check back for more exciting videos on learning Lightburn.